Yep, you read the title correctly. I am quitting social media in 2024 and I am so excited about it. There is a lot to unpack here, but I just want to say I have not felt this at peace inside and just so inspired in a really long time. I feel like the last time I felt like this was probably when I began to embark on my minimalism journey, and I have a feeling it's just because I knew that that was a really big positive change in my life and that a lot of good was going to come from it, and it kind of allowed me to get rid of some beliefs that were holding me back, I think, from being the best version of myself and, you know, living the life that I truly wanted to live. And so this whole scenario is very similar and it just feels really good, and that's how I know that it's the right move for me. So I wanted to make this video because obviously I'm going to kind of share progress throughout it. It is pretty big, I would say, in general as a creator, to kind of leave platforms as a whole, but I also know that, you know, for anyone who isn't even a creator and is on social media, it can seem like a pretty daunting thing to just completely get rid of it. You know, there's some fears attached to that whole idea, and so I just want to unpack those and share kind of the things that led me to this very moment. So I have decided to quit Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. Let's be honest though, I feel like Threads was barely up and running before I even forgot about it. So I feel like that one doesn't really matter in the grander scheme of things. But those three I have decided to completely delete, actually including Facebook. But I will be going on Facebook from time to time just to use the marketplace, because I do buy a lot of secondhand stuff if we need something, and also to use Messenger just to communicate with family members mostly, or anyone that I don't actually talk with through text. So those are the things that kind of maintain the aspect of connection that those platforms offer, but they are completely off my phone and my devices. And that is a pretty big step, I want to say. I'm pretty excited to be free of them. And this is not a decision that I made lightly. Obviously, there was a lot of thought that went into this. And I feel like I kind of had the idea of leaving these social media platforms quite a few times over the past couple of years, but I never really felt like it was the right time to really bite the bullet and actually go through with it until now. And I think there are a few factors that led me to this moment, obviously, and just helped me really decide, like, okay, this is the right choice for me. I think that it's going to enhance my life in a really great way versus it being a stressful thing to do, because obviously I'm on there as a creator and essentially as a business, right? So there were just a lot of things that I had to consider before really deciding to take the jump. So just briefly, I want to share some of the fears that crossed my mind before I came to this decision that I was going to leave these social media platforms. It might just help you kind of get a better sense of what I went through during this thought process, and then I'm going to share just the reasoning why this is right for me and why I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to delete the apps. So there are 4 different kind of fears that crossed my mind throughout this process. The number one thing is the fear of missing out, and just the idea that me being off of these platforms would mean that I'm kind of an outsider in a way. But I think that is such a limiting belief. At least that's what I've come to realize, because we don't need to be on these platforms, you guys, in order to have real life connection with people, with businesses, whatever you might want to, you know, connect with. We do not have to be online in order to connect. It's just false. And I think that social media and these companies have led us to believe that if we're not on these platforms, we're really missing out. But I think that that's something that we just need to like throw behind us. Like, that's just, it's not true. So that was one thing. The second thing was the fear of losing connection with certain people. So obviously, you know, I connect with a lot of you guys on Instagram, for example, but I also connect with some family members that I don't see often and friends that I don't see often, and I'll be messaging on there with them or being able to keep up with their lives. And obviously there's the fear that, oh, I'm gonna lose this connection with those people. You know, there are other ways to connect that do not have to be online. So I think that in itself is also another limiting belief. It might be, you know, convenient, but it's not the only way to connect with people. And then these last two fears are kind of just things that crossed my mind as a creator on the platforms. You guys know it's kind of a little bit of a business that, you know, creators run on their own platforms. We're not just on here to connect with family and friends. We have, you know, built these platforms up so that we can earn a little bit of a living. So one fear for me was that loss of income from partnerships that I have on those specific platforms. But like I will mention throughout this video, I'm over putting money above my mental health and honestly just my way of living. So that threw that out the door as well. The last thing was that I feared losing everything that I had built as a creator. And I think this is a very valid one. Obviously, you know, artists have their artwork, potters have their pottery, and creators online have this digital portfolio that they have built. And so I was afraid of losing everything that I had been building over the past 7 years and just essentially like dragging it and dropping it into the trash bin. At least that's kind of what you do when you delete your social media profile. Maybe it's out there in the dark web or whatever, but as a creator, it is tough. It's a tough pill to swallow to even think about like getting rid of all of that creative work that you had done. So that was something that I really had to come to peace with in order to make this decision. Now onto my reasons for leaving these platforms. The number one thing that has made me come to this decision is that I want to see what life is like without these platforms. I really, really want to see how I feel, the connections that I build, the experiences that I have without these platforms in my life. And you know the saying, you don't know until you know? I think that's kind of what this is gonna be like, because obviously I have done social media detoxes in the past, but they've always been really, really short. They've only been like a week or so. And you know, I always come out of them feeling super refreshed, but the feeling is fleeting. And so I want that long term. And I'm really excited to see what life can be without having these platforms in my life. Okay, number two is that I desire to live a slower life. I actually don't think that I have the temperament to live such a fast-paced life, and all of these apps actually encourage a faster paced life. It is the 30-second videos that you're watching that have like hundreds of different clips in them. It's the constant like refreshing of the feed. It's the constant stories, the messages, the broadcast channels that we now have, the new subscription features, all of the explore page. Like, it is very, very fast paced. If I'm being super honest here, creating content on Instagram, like Reels as well as TikToks, it never felt super natural to me. I feel like there was always an element of force going into the things that I posted. And I have to say this honestly, because I think as creators, you know, there is this pressure to always do the next best thing, to always stay on top of it, stay on top of trends, and like continue going and going and going. And you're kind of like on this hamster wheel essentially. And I definitely did get swept up in that. And I was doing things that weren't actually making me happy and that I wasn't actually enjoying. I was only doing them because I felt like I had to. And so I'm kind of over that fast-paced life. I'm over putting the money that I might have earned on these platforms, as well as the success that I might have been having, which is essentially fame, above my mental health and the way that I actually want to live my life. I find that living slower has actually allowed me to connect with my emotions more. It has allowed me to sit peacefully with my own thoughts, to connect more deeply with others, and to have richer experiences. And so I'm excited to see how my life blooms and how these different parts of my life bloom when I'm off of social media. Next is that I do not like to be on all the time, and these apps have literally been designed to grab our attention and keep it as long as possible. Even with notifications and badges off on my phone, I still found myself habitually like clicking on the app when I didn't really need to. And so for non-creators on these apps, I assume that this is true and this happens all the time. But then as a creator, I feel like it's even worse. Like there is this invisible pressure to be active online 24/7. And even if you know in your mind, like, okay, you know, that's unrealistic, I don't need to be online all the time, there's still that pressure of, okay, you know, I feel like I should be on there, like I should be posting this, I should be storying this. And so just that I really don't vibe with. And so I'm just saying goodbye to it. The next thing that helped me decide to leave these apps is that I want to spend my time doing things that I enjoy. I cannot tell you how little enjoyment I get out of these apps. Obviously, there is this temporary pleasure that comes with clicking on the app, but when I am realistic and honest about how I feel after closing out the apps, I can't say that it's a positive experience. Like I can't say I'm having positive feelings. So that kind of says something, obviously. I want to enjoy what I'm doing with my time. I want to be able to choose what I'm doing with my time and not be glued to my phone, you know? I want to notice new things. I want to take interest in new things. And I feel like being on these apps has actually prevented me from doing that. So I'm excited to just get rid of them and to really start doing the things that truly bring me joy. These apps promote overconsumption no matter which way you look at it, whether it is actually being on the apps for hours on end, or trying to keep up with the Jones, or feeling like you do not have enough or that you need more of something. Literally anything you can think of that you see online and you're like, oh, I need more of that in my life. And then as a creator, I found that there was a pressure to create a lot of product focused content when, to be honest, like, yeah, I could sit around and talk about products all day long, but I don't think that's bringing joy into anybody's life. I don't think that that is the most impactful and meaningful content that I could be sharing, but there is, I feel, this pressure to do that because that's what gets you successful. That's what gets you the most money. And so I am just not here for it at all. And lastly, I want to see what happens when I focus my energy on one thing. And I say this obviously in the realm of social media. I am going to be focusing solely on YouTube, and I am excited to see what comes of it because I have not been able to focus on just one platform ever. I've always been on multiple platforms at once, kind of stretching myself thin. And so I'm super stoked to see what I'm able to share on here. I'm going to be really, really intentional, and I'm super fired up about it. So that's pretty much it. That is how I came to the decision that leaving these social media platforms is right for me. And if any of these reasons or these fears resonated with you, then I definitely encourage you to think a little bit more on them, you know, really do a little bit of self-reflection and see how these apps fit into your life. See if there is the possibility that your life could be better without them, because I will bet you that it could be. And if you are interested in joining me on this journey, feel free to comment down below and we can help keep each other accountable. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, don't forget to give it a like or a comment. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I have a lot of good stuff coming in the new year.